Well, a very pleasant good morning, and welcome to Money Info on WPSL Worldwide, WPSLTV.com, with Mike King in Las Vegas and Charles Moskowitz in Boston. And, of course, when we get to this time of year, I have to ask Charles, what is the temperature in your home in Cape Cod?
772-340.
Oh, Mike is talking to Charles. Oh, I'm sorry to get in the way. I mean, you know. We are here at Sunrise Ford for our WPSL Christmas Kid Show, and that's going to start about 11 o'clock, but at least for this period of time, we're going to be talking about it. This is really kind of cool stuff, about automation in a car. And Carol is with us from Sunrise Ford, and she'll be putting her microphone on here in just a second. She's got a headset mic. And got to ask you a question about, I guess Ford has what they call Sync. Ford, and of course Lincoln also has this product as well. This thing seems to do everything from navigation to your phones to everything else. And it's what they call an infotainment system?
Yes. It's the Sync came out in 2008, and then in 2011 we went to the MyTouch, an optional feature that isn't like an information center, where you can pair your phones up and talk hands-free, and it has a lot of other features as well that go with it.
So when we look at these cars now, I mean, compared to, say, cars even 5 years ago, the computerization that goes into these, especially like these Sync units, that is like a whole communications device, is totally different.
Oh yeah, selling cars today is a lot different than it was years ago. I mean, with all the technology, people like zoom right in on it. They like it. It's safe, where they can pair their phones up and talk hands-free. Touch screens. It's really amazing. Yeah.
What really impressed us, and when Carol and I were at the Broadcasters Convention, we went into this one area of the hall, and there were like 6 cars next to each other. One was a Lexus, one was a Ford, General Motors had a product, Tesla had one that had this huge 17-inch screen.
Wow.
In the passenger area. I can't even imagine anything that large. But tell us a little bit about the advantage of the Sync. I mean, what can this do for you? It handles navigation as well, right?
Yes, it does. Well, if you just have Sync with, it's powered by Microsoft. What that does, if you have that in your vehicle, you can pair your phone up and talk hands-free. You can access Bluetooth audio, which is really nice. And a lot of our systems are going away from CDs, and definitely cassettes have been out for a while, gone rather. But you also get other features with it, like 911 Assist. If you get in an accident, your airbags are deployed. The system is designed to call 911, and we've had several customers, unfortunately, that have had accidents, but that said it worked. And vehicle health report. You can see how your vehicle's doing, if there's anything that needs to be addressed, or if there's any type of, programs that Ford, said, hey, bring your vehicle in for any updates and things like that. Then if you go to the MyTouch, so the MyTouch takes it just a whole nother step further, and it's an 8-inch screen, and what that does is that accesses your entertainment, your phone, navigation, or the Sync services if you have that feature, and the climate control.
Okay. Our laptop that we're looking at right now, our home computers, they get updates.
Mm-hmm.
Does your car get an update from Microsoft too?
It does, and
really,
you can bring it into the dealership and they'll update it, or you can do it yourself at home. Just use one of the flash drives and download the update and then install it into your vehicle. Yeah, it's amazing.
This is mind-boggling. I can't believe this. Yeah, this is amazing. Charles, have you got any questions for Carol here at Sunrise Ford?
Not really.
Huh?
I'm kind of an old-fashioned guy. I like driving my, old BMW because it's not a computer with wheels. I know that when something goes wrong with it on the side of the road, that it's mechanical and there's a shot I can fix it. I mean, not only the Fords, but any of these cars. I mean, I have a car that stopped shifting gears because of a sensor in the transmission that told it how fast the car was going.
And Carol is nodding here,
Yes.
nodding affirmative.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's an upside and there's a downside. There are always two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mike,
this
what about
car,
you?
This
Are you
car
really
just,
into technology in a car?
Say that again?
Mike,
whenever it comes to
in Las Vegas,
communications-
are you into the high-tech automobiles?
Well, sure. Whenever it comes to communications, I like that. But I believe in driving carefully. You know, I'm 75 years old. I have never had an accident of any kind. And I believe that having accidents are due to negligence.
Yeah. Well, and that's what Carol just mentioned about, the hands-free aspect of all this. The old bugaboo, I guess, of cell phones in a car is kind of goes out the window.
And most places they can now pull you over. I mean,
Yeah.
It used to be like with seatbelts. It used to be, if they pulled you over and you happened to be on the phone, or if they pulled you over and you weren't wearing a seatbelt. Now they pull you over for either of those, and it's not cheap. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, I got one in New York where they literally pulled me over in Manhattan for being on my phone. It was $160.
Oh, I'm sure. Sure.
Well, that's
And the
what's
next
great
one
about
is
the
twice
hands-free.
that.
Yeah.
Because you don't.
So
and there's
that's a big upside.
Yeah. Well, and what Carol is saying that's why the hands-free is so valuable, right, Carol?
right. You do voice commands on, especially if you have the MyTouch. Voice commands command everything from climate control to navigation to stereo to phone. So there's things you can touch screen, but there's speed prohibitive things that you can't do whenever you're going down the road driving over a certain speed limit. So you have to use the voice commands.
That's amazing. Well, yeah, this is a whole brand new technology that we're looking at, and it's everything from cell phones, but if you're say in a parking garage or something like that, you could check your emails as well. I mean, you could do everything you could do in your office. You can now do in these new cars, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, almost.
Wow, amazing. Well,
There's
thank
no
you very
men's
much
room.
for being with us. I mean, I think this is absolutely fascinating. And Mike, I know you've been talking about Leo Motors in Korea, and they're talking about developing this brand new whiz-bang type battery that could change the entire hybrid and or even electric car industry, right?
The Koreans are amazing. Just look at Sanyong. They are amazing in every aspect of technology, whether it's medical or whether it's energy related. They are literally the geniuses of our century, and they have a lot of technology you'll be seeing that will affect cars and boats. Now Leo is installing energy into fishing boats, so they don't have
Really?
to have typical combustion engines. They can operate.
Really?
Yes, that's all happening. And
Wow. That's mind-boggling that they can actually do that for. You're talking like seiners, the ones that actually go out and fish for the tuna and stuff like that. Then, right?
yes, they have thousands of fishing boats,
yeah.
literally, that use millions and millions of gallons of petrol that won't be needed.
Wow.
Korea is a huge
That's
importer. They don't drill very much oil in Korea. They have to import it all. It's a big negative for them at the end of the year, and they're going to be able to save a lot of money by using new batteries that they're making. And I think they'll also be able to supply Tesla. Tesla has suffered due to battery shortages, not being able to get enough to meet the demand for cars. Because you can see, with global warming having its effect on worse storms, look at these tornadoes and typhoons that are getting worse every year. And we're dumping just too much debris into the atmosphere And I believe that global warming is having an effect, and we do need to do something about it. And I think the Koreans are taking a lead here. So we'll be seeing a lot from Leo Motors. No question about that.
Yeah, well, you know, I was fascinated. Was it 4 or 5 years ago when you were talking about them planning on going coast to coast on one battery charge? I mean, I just think if you could pull something like that off, that would be, you know, really absolutely amazing, and that would be a game changer for hybrids and electric vehicles, for that matter. Carol, getting back to Ford a little bit too. Now, does Ford have an electric product, like a all-electric plug-in car, if you will?
We have 3 vehicles. We have a hybrid Ford Fusion and our new C-Max, and then we have the Energy Ford Fusion and C-Max, and then we have an electric Focus. But the Energy one is really, you can run on hybrid when you can run strictly on electric for, say, up to 21 miles, and then you can decide when you want to use that electric too. And if it runs out, then it goes right back to the hybrid traditional mode, you know, gas electric. And you just, you know, plug it in, and you can download an app on your smartphone, and it will tell you what energy you've used, locations where there are chargers. So it takes about 2.5 hours on a 240 volt and about 5.5 on a 110, but it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah. I know my old supermarket chain, and I think, Mike, I think you have some Vons supermarkets in Nevada too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, my old supermarket chain, Vons Markets in Los Angeles, started putting in charging stations maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So, I mean, they were kind of getting ready for all of this. And, you know, and if you think about you're only going to be driving 20 or 30 or 40 miles, I mean, that's something. Okay, when I'm running out of battery power, so then what happens? I mean, does the car stop? Does it slow? Or does it just kick into
if you're in an energy, it's just going to go right to traditional hybrid.
Gotcha. Okay.
If you're in an electric, now, yes,
that's a whole different story.
So we really, those are kind of being marketed more in cities, you know, as opposed to any type of, you know, suburban or travel type thing. Because ours goes, I think, 76 miles, up to 76 miles before you have to charge again. And it takes about 6-7 hours to charge on electric.
So you could charge in your garage.
Sure.
And I'm sure that's a lot.
Of course, they use larger batteries too. There's lithium-ion batteries, so they're larger from each, you know, vehicle, from the regular hybrid to the energy to the electric.
Now, you know, like Mike was talking about what Leo's working on in Korea, with, you know, with these tuna seiners, which are huge ships. Are you also doing this in the truck field too? Because I know you guys sell a lot of trucks. I
haven't heard yet that we're doing it. We're doing a lot of EcoBoost engines, you know, the turbocharged. So that's a big thing for Ford right now too.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you again. I see a check that's going to be presented during our Christmas Kids show for Mike and Mary Jo. God, they've been with us for 15 years with the WPSL Christmas Kids, so we can't thank you guys enough.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Michael and Charles, what's happening market-wise? I mean,
Charles has been hot again. He's got a hot hand.
Oh, yeah.
He's been killing them, man.
I had a call from the same guy who pointed it out the last time. He called me and he said, "Well, I think I have to lay low for a week." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because, you know, traditionally you don't go much further than this." And I said, "What do you mean this?" And he said, "Well, you're 11 out of 12 for your last 12 trades. 11 are profits. So you're probably getting right to the edge."
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
been a good couple of weeks. We did get kind of nailed in a single position last week in the Cisco, and we didn't sell it even though it went through our 50% rule, because there was no point in selling it. The options went from, I think they closed around 70 cents and they opened at 4 cents. But it wasn't a very big position, and we still would have been profitable for the week, but it was, you know, a disappointment.
Well, you
Anyway, the
ventured into
market,
earnings.
the market's been, particularly strong. One of the things that I rely on a lot is the financials. You don't have a long, sustained bull market without the financials participating, and they just started to come on in the last week or so. Bank of America, J.P. Morgan, all the banks have been strong, and we took some profits in both of those, both last week and yesterday. So we're only up $30, $31 here, and the S&P is up just under $2. The dollar is a little bit weaker. Interest rates are a little bit lower. The 10-year was trading around 272, 273 yesterday. It's 269 today. Which may not sound like a lot, but it's a fairly substantial move. And of course, the oil continues to languish in the low 90s, 93.07 today, pretty much unchanged. And of course, the big name in the news, Tesla, has rebounded a bit this morning. It's 128 up 683, which was just less than half of what it was down yesterday. The stock was down $14 yesterday.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what the reason for that is.
When momentum stocks run out of momentum, that's what happens.
Okay.
The company is absolutely priced for perfection and has been. It was up in the 194 area, and this morning pre-market in the extended hours, it actually touched 115. So it's rallied about $13 off the low, but it's still $60 off the high. Mm-hmm. So, momentum comes and goes, and you just never can tell, as I mentioned in the letter, they don't ring a bell when the market tops out. I mean, it's you start to see signs of it. And a lot of these big momentum stocks, managers don't get paid on performance on trades that are not closed out. And so if you have a trade, let's say you bought Tesla at, 50 or 80 or 100, and it's 180, and you're figuring on that bonus for that performance, and it starts to come down, you get a lot of people who just throw in the towel. They're still profitable. They, want to get paid for their work for the year, for their bonuses, and so they toss some of these momentum stocks out. Same thing happened yesterday with, Tesla, Amazon, Netflix, all of those big momentum names, and of course they're all rebounding a bit today.
Guys, we were talking about some of the technology stuff. I am looking at an article from today's TV technology, switching from 1080, which is high def,
right,
to Ultra HD. Now, keep in mind, there are no television networks shooting in Ultra HD. There are no movies being made in Ultra HD, and there are some brand new television sets priced around $3,000 that can receive Ultra HD. But here we go. It's the electronics industry is going crazy again, and they're going to try and get us all into Ultra HD, even though
Greg,
the television networks are
the issue of offering something that you don't need in the electronics area, it has been around a while. It's true that cameras are, we found a use for the cameras in the phone. But initially, right, who thought about, okay, so I have a camera with me all the time, so what? And so there was that. I'm going to be surprised if some of the actors and actresses aren't getting a little annoyed about it, because when you look at them that close, they're a little rough.
Yeah. It was so funny. I remember this guy that was a makeup person at Fox 11 in Los Angeles when we were doing our Los Angeles Dodgers pre and post game shows called Dodger Central, and he was going, God, I hope we never go HD because you guys are really ugly, and no layers of makeup will help you.
It's true. I mean, and you can see it in HD on any TV show. On the other hand, for sports, it's phenomenal. I don't think that it's just a coincidence that as HD and better cameras and better TVs came along, that hockey is so much more popular, and everybody's games are broadcast everywhere now.
Right.
Because for years and years and years, it was always very exciting to go to a hockey game.
Right.
You know, growing up in New York and being a Rangers fan and being up here in Boston and having the Bruins. And
Right.
It's very exciting. But for years, I couldn't watch it on TV. They didn't have the technology to follow the puck or
Right.
to make it discernible from the ice.
And it was really interesting that you say that, because one of our great Dodger cameramen who was with us at Fox 11, he was the guy who did a reverse polarity on a television camera to make the puck look white and make the ice look black. And therefore, camera people could follow the puck a lot faster than they would ever do it in real life. And it's really amazing when you think about how all that was put together, and you think about, in a way, how simple that was. I just thought it was very, very funny that, that just one little tweak of a television camera that could change everything. And that's exactly what it did for the National Hockey League, for college hockey. And actually, once we get WPSL TV going, we're going to have some college hockey as well, which you think in Florida. But, it's like, again, a lot of these college hockey teams are using, want to use Florida kids as, as a recruiting tool. So kind of intriguing, to say the least. Our musicians we have 3 school buses from John Carroll High School. It's the St. A's Jazz Band, and they're usually about 60 pieces strong. And so we're very excited here. This is a 15-year-long tradition at Sunrise Ford, where we've had this symphony orchestra here. We totally destroy. Mike and Charles, I wish you could see this. We totally destroy their showroom, and it's all chairs, and they're right in front of us. And it turns into a symphony hall here, which we'll have as soon as you guys get off the air. So it's a lot of fun, and obviously we have to thank, by the way, local columnist Anthony Westbury, who wrote a very nice column today about the Christmas charities, ours being one, and we want to thank him a lot. And of course, Sunrise Ford being a 15-year supporter of this, where we bounce around from one business to another, from banks to hospitals to, and in the case today, Sunrise Ford will be at the Sunrise Theater tomorrow. And so, all of that put together, and we raise money for the 5 weeks leading up to December 16 or 17, whenever we distribute the toys. This year is the 16th. So, want to thank all of the folks locally involved, and internationally who are listening to this show. I know we do have a lot of new listeners who don't normally listen to WPSL. Well, all you have to do is go to our website, WPSL.com, punch the Christmas Kids button, and you can read about this charity that dates all the way back to 1946. So it's the oldest charity on the Treasure Coast, and we're just really, really proud to keep it going. So that's a sales pitch for the Christmas Kids. But Michael, obviously the area of the world that I know you love so much, and that's the Pacific Rim, just absolutely devastated in the Philippines. I guess a lot of the meteorologists were calling that storm the biggest storm ever, anywhere. And obviously Andrew down here in Florida was just totally devastated South Florida, but I've never seen anything like what the Philippines have gone through.
Well, look at what happened in the Midwest. 200-mile-an-hour winds and the tornadoes.
Yeah.
They postponed the football game with the Chicago Bears.
Right.
Yep.
I mean.
Yeah, it's you know, and it gets back, Mike. You don't want to get political in something like this, but you know, you just have to start thinking that something's going on. You know, and I know, knock on wood, let me tell you, every year. We worry about hurricanes, and that's when we have to batten down the hatches.
They're going to be
obviously.
getting worse.
Our radio stations alone had 1, 2, 3 facilities damaged by either the twin hurricanes of 2004 or Wilma in 2005. So I mean, it's been a real challenge, to say the least, when you have these weather problems, and obviously what they're going through, especially in the Midwest here locally, and of course across the pond, if you will, on the Pacific Rim in the Philippines, is just god awful.
It's
just
the Republicans
just
in
horrific.
Congress, Greg. Didn't you know?
What's that?
It's the Republicans in Congress's fault.
Yeah. What?
Well, it's their fault for everything else. I mean, why not global warming?
Now, if you look at solar stocks, look at how they're responding very nicely, and they're having tremendous rallies. And, you know, the industry has really half a dozen really good solar companies.
Yeah.
You know, like Juco.
You know, that's interesting. You know, you think that, especially areas like Florida, New Mexico, Carol and I started in television in Tucson, Arizona. You know, areas like that, you think solar would just, where you are, Michael, in Las Vegas, would be natural for
it's growing,
all
right.
solar, if you will.
You know who had
there?
You're going to think this is crazy, Greg, but do you know which state had the biggest participation and the biggest tax credits and funding for solar for residential?
Don't say
You're gonna laugh.
Massachusetts.
New Jersey.
Jersey.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Jersey only gets 3 days of sun all year.
No,
Are you serious?
evidently, no. They were number one of the first, and
Wow.
number two, the biggest participant on the state level for converting to solar. I mean, I have a friend of mine who has a very big house there, and his electric bill was in the neighborhood of $600 a month, and
Wow.
he did I guess his house faces the right way. I'm not sure which way that is, but faces the right way, and he replaced his entire roof with solar panels. It cost him $85,000. He got a big tax credit from the federal government, but he also got a $29,000 check from the state of New Jersey to do it. I mean, that's a big chunk. $30,000 on an $85,000 job. He has excess and sells it back to the grid. Hasn't had an electric bill in 4 years.
That's cool.
Wow, that's
pretty
something.
amazing.
So, Mike, how about your friends in Las Vegas? How many are into solar?
Well, they're getting into it frequently. There's every day someone else is getting into it, and if you look at the solar stocks, I mean, they're coming out in the news almost daily with their earnings. Like Trina Solar came out this morning, earning 14 cents as opposed to a deficit of 15 cents that was expected. So their sales were $548 million versus $515 million last quarter. Sales are higher, earnings are higher constantly in the whole industry. And there's a lot of participants. It's a broad industry. So
And it makes all the sense in the world.
It's all coming. It's It's all
Yeah.
in process.
There was a piece this morning on Bloomberg that I noticed about Jack Lew saying that the government should be investigating, excuse me, all of the people who got grants from the government for solar power. So, if there's a way to grab an extra couple of cents from it, they're working on it.
Well, yesterday after the close...
But, Charles, as far as some of the technology stocks, what about some of the medical stuff?
They're kind of in flux because they have no clue which way this is going to go. The medical stocks kind of defy lumping together because there are so many of the medical stocks that are so well specialized. Lots of the biotech stocks where they just don't really move as a group. There's one that I noticed going by on the tape this morning that had some sort of a positive response on a new product that was trading at $3.32, up $1.40. Last week we had one. I'm trying to remember, the SRPT was a pharmaceutical company that in the pre-market was trading at I want to say it was 23 down 13, so down about a third on a missed final on one of their trials, and in fact closed the day at 13 down 26 at the end of the day. So it was down literally 2/3 of its value. But you see these little ones, in very specialized fields. Obviously, the big fields right now are diabetes and multiple sclerosis. Those are
many of the
ones
drugs to treat these illnesses only last a short period of time, and that's a problem. You have to constantly go back to the doctor.
Yeah.
And get a new injection, like almost weekly. But Sanyong, which is a Korean company, has partnered up with Akina at the University of Purdue, and they're making a sustained release that will change the molecular structure of some of these drugs, and they'll last a lot longer if they're successful.
Mike, how far along is all that stuff?
Well, a couple of the drugs are just about completed, and they've given us, Broadleaf Capital, BDLF, an opportunity to buy half, 49%, just 1% less than half, 49% of the technology for $5 million. So we're eagerly looking to obtain the funds and buy half of this technology, which should be sensational. It'll be so valuable for people.
Oh, sure. You bet.
And there are 10 to 15 major illnesses being worked on by Akina. So you'll be seeing a lot more in the news as we move ahead. And so you can just watch Broadleaf Capital, BDLF.
What does that sell for, Mike?
It's just like a half a cent, less than half a cent, because it's just being established. So there's an opportunity there. Look what happened with Jinko Solar Holdings, symbol JKS. I mean, in April the stock was less than $5, trading easily in the fours, and it's $33. I mean, that's a pretty nice move, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but kind of, the outstanding
in less
one.
than a year.
I mean, we're still trading Hecla that cost us $4, and it's trading around $3 and just does not live to move. I think there's some specialization in all of these, as the same way that it is in the same way that it is in some of these medical stocks, it is in some of these miners. But the miners, even the gold miners, are getting down to levels that actually make a lot of sense regardless. You look at, for example, the Hecla. Silver is hanging at $20.50 roughly, and they have a lift cost of $1.50 an ounce. So there are others in that same industry that I'm assuming have similar cost structures in place, and those stocks have gotten really, really hammered and are very oversold here. Of course, they can stay oversold for a while, but the fact of the matter is...
Well, you have tax law selling, too,
yeah,
coming up here into the end of the year. These stocks will be excellent January-affected trades in 30 days to put them on.
I actually was really hoping that we would get a chance in those Bank of America warrants that we've traded every December to January. But with the stock making new recovery highs, those have gone from about 63 to about 81, 82 cents. So, and that's pretty close to the high of the year. So I'm guessing that we won't get the opportunity in that one. But some of these momentum stocks the same way. If they continue to sell down some of these stocks, like the Tesla, there'll be some tax loss selling, and there'll be people who do it for the opposite reason because they want to nail down the profit, and those will bounce too. Maybe even Cisco. By the way, the only thing that bothered me about the market yesterday, Greg, you were asking about technology stocks.
Yes.
The only really big negative that I noticed was that 80% of the NASDAQ 100 were down. So that's...
Really?
Yes. That's 4-to-1 decliners over advancers.
Okay, so how does that happen?
The same way that we're talking about right now. There are people who, the momentum stopped and they, want to get off the bus. I mean, you got to remember, again, just using Tesla because I've been doing a lot of work on it, but just using Tesla, the stock was $40, and it was up at 40. And it went through 50, and the next stop was 70. I mean, you had people buying this stock the whole way up, and it, eventually got to 194, and now it's 125. I mean, when the momentum stops, these people just pile out of it the same way they piled into it at 50 and 70 and
sure.
80 and 90.
Yeah, wow.
So,
Amazing.
But 4-to-1 down, that's a pretty big number in the... when you look at where the market is, when you look at recovery highs in the NASDAQ and all-time highs in the S&P and the Dow, 4-to-1 negative breadth that's a pretty big number.
Oh, sure.
Well,
you got
the
that
high
right.
tech and the glamour stocks usually lead the way, and so you've had a tremendous move in these stocks.
Yeah, look at what Boeing did. Everybody was saying Boeing, the 787 and all the problems, and what are they going to do, and this new rollout, and it's not a good product, and the stock was down from 100.
They had trouble at 107.
Yeah,
now it's 138.
And it was down into the 90s. Here we are at 140. So, again, the market tends to be somewhat irrational from time to time. There are still guys running around saying that they got a $60 price target on Netflix, which is $3.44 right here, up another $3 today. And those same guys are, talking about some of their other stocks that they follow, and, there's a guy here who says, Tesla's a $40 stock. Of course, he's the same guy who says Netflix is a $60 stock, so he doesn't get a lot of press.
That's incredible how big a move Netflix has had with such a simple technology.
Right.
And,
Yeah. And, the whole thing with that one is they're selling a product that's not expensive. While there may not be a lot of people who are willing to spend $60,000 on an electric car, there are plenty of people willing to spend $7.99 to, watch TV. And their offering is amazing. I mean, they have all of these, made for them original programming as well as deals. They have a deal with Disney. They have all of these deals lined up where, they're accessing the library. I got an email from Netflix. I had never used it. Here's a free trial. And this is going to seriously date me, but even Mike will remember this. I go on and I look at some of the older TV shows. You know that Alfred Hitchcock had a half-hour TV show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but
they're all there.
Television. Yeah. Speaking of TV, the big story on the National Association of Broadcasters website yesterday, Aereo. Which is raising quite a stir with broadcasters. And basically what they're saying is that if Aereo keeps growing, then all of the sports, every sport will be off free television. Simple as that. Because they don't want Aereo to be able to pirate those signals, which they can do off over the air. Which is what they're doing, especially in New York City, Philadelphia, in Washington, D.C. So, and I think even in your market, Charles, Aereo is pirating a lot of the Boston television stations as well.
And I think that my recollection is that they all joined in a class action suit against them yesterday.
Yes, they did. Yes, and actually the National Association of Broadcasters is doing likewise. So you guys can't imagine what we're looking at right now. There's over 60 pieces in this orchestra, and including a huge bass. Is that a bass instrument, G? I guess that's over there. It's bass.
Wow.
Just a bass. So yeah, it's amazing. And these kids are, I think, 7th graders. I'm not sure which orchestra this is at St. Anastasia's School. But truly amazing. And to give you a little background, guys,
they'll do anything to miss class.
What's that?
They'll do anything to miss a class, I guess.
Oh, yeah, yeah. As Mike just said, the kids will do anything to miss a class. Well, certainly. Then I think they actually go out and have lunch after this too. So, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, the whole business of copyright is, especially in television, is really coming into question now. And even movies, you're talking about, there was someone, and we don't know how I don't even understand how this could happen, who was pirating dailies, which is like when you you're basically the overnights in movies, and it's not even a finished movie yet, that they were pirating that stuff, and I have no idea how that happens, or why that would be worth anything. That's because it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. But hey, that's the world we live in right now.
Okay, so
what looks hot to you, Charles?
You've been
on such a roll for the last year or two.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, what's your opinion on Bitcoin, Mike?
Well, I think it's probably they've gone too far, and I think that Congress will put a clamp on this. They certainly can't emulate currency, but it's a combination between collecting paintings and coins, and otherwise interfering with the currency.
Yeah. Are you familiar with this, Greg?
I don't know if we lost Greg.
Actually, I was watching Bloomberg and I saw a little of that.
I hardly hear Greg.
It's unbelievable. These Bitcoins a couple of months ago had a value of almost $200. and all of a sudden they came back down into about the $80 area really quickly. Yesterday, I saw them trading at 600 and change, up $179. So, I mean, how do you... They claim that it's, such a great way to complete transactions on an anonymous basis, but, how do you figure what they're actually worth? I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, it'd be great if I bought, $1,000 worth of bitcoins at 200, and they're now worth 700. But the fact of the matter is, how
you can't trace the liquidity. You don't know if only one trade.
Well, that's right. I agree. And so it's it looks like a real problem, and of course, it's also a real problem from the standpoint of people who do illegal things, money laundering, drug trafficking, etc., can use them and be completely anonymous. So, it's not as simple as, a credit or a debit card. I mean, American Express knows who you are, and there's a certain degree of comfort in them extending you credit. These Bitcoin things, I mean, they're just... And you hear people talking about them as if, they are the next major currency. But again, based on what? Even the dollar has some basis.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's so hard to imagine when you start thinking of I'm still...
I mean, Greg, if I paid you for something in a Bitcoin and it was worth $400, and, I would think it would restrain your trade if you felt that it was going higher, or collapse the value if everybody rushed to sell them because they think they're overpriced. I mean, you're talking about something yesterday that was literally up, 42%. I mean, that's, I just, maybe I'm old and a doddering old fool, but I just don't understand.
That's the way I feel.
I just don't understand the valuation model for it.
Well, like we said, that there's no tracing of liquidity, so it could be one trade, and it could be somebody manipulating the market.
And who does the originating?
So,
how big can the supply get? I mean, that, I understand that the dollar is a kind of, in some ways in the same boat. But, how do you know that they're not being generated, in ridiculous numbers?
Well, the more will come out on the Bitcoins as the investigation goes on in Washington.
Yeah.
So that's just beginning now.
Yeah.
It's a major issue right now.
I mean, this is one of those times where I actually agree that the government should be more involved rather than less involved.
Yeah, this whole thing seems very, very strange. I mean, I don't understand that. Of course, you see the commercials now where Chase has got, where you just take a picture of a check and it it's straight into your account. I'm not ready for that yet either. I just a little too old school.
Yeah, I mean, I send you a check. I send you a check, Greg, and you do business in 4 banks that allow you to do that, and you deposit my check 4 different times, and you're gone when the, when the last 3 bounce.
Yeah, that's outrageous.
Yeah, well, all under the guise of progress.
Well, keep up the good work. You certainly have a hot hand in the markets.
Well,
and it's the right time to have it as you get into the end of the year.
Yeah.
You got just a few weeks here, and you have
the only one that I really that we sold yesterday via the text that I really didn't want to sell, really wanted to hold on for a while, was the J.C. Penney. But it got up to almost 9.5, and then it kind of collapsed back down pretty fast. It's 8.87. I think we sold it at 8.70 something. But I just, I was kind of hoping that we'd see what.
Well, I will ask you guys to keep carrying on this show because I can't hear anything. As you could probably hear, we don't even have the mics on in this showroom. But we have been taken over by the St. Anastasia's Orchestra here. But
so we still got about
Charles
2 minutes.
Can keep going to the very end of the show. Cliff will get you there as we prepare for our WPSL Christmas Kids. Charles and Mike, we'll talk to you next week. And I'm not sure where we are next week. But anyway, we'll get with Money Info right here on WPSL. And Mike and Charles, take it to the end here.
All right.
Great.
Yeah. So, Charles, you sold the JCP right into the 50-day moving average, didn't you?
Yeah.
So how could
I
you be
did,
faulted
and
for that?
it reversed, and I was concerned about the market, so I figured, we would take the profit and, just kind of sit on
you
the
did the right
sidelines.
thing.
I'd like to see it consolidate here a little bit. I mean, it had a nice move. I just don't
But what
know.
are the sellers of Me Too products? You've got the Sears, the Amazons, the JCP, Walmart. They're all selling the same product. Who's
Right.
going to win out?
Whoever's cheapest.
And so
Whoever's cheapest or whoever offers the fastest and simplest delivery. Yesterday they were talking about Federal Express is talking about Sunday delivery now. And they say that, Fred Smith was interviewed yesterday, and he said, if there's a demand for it, we'll absolutely do it. This is the time of the year where people might be interested in that, but I can't imagine that it's really necessary the rest of the year.
Well, guys, maybe phone numbers, email addresses, websites.
Well, everybody knows that if they want more information on the letter or what's going on, they can go to PrincetonResearch.com. And
how about the Wednesday call?
And the Wednesday conference call. The attendance to that has fallen off a little bit recently, but it's a great forum for you. It's 712-432-0075, and the PIN is 614426. And there's nothing that you can't talk about on the call.
All righty. Thank you, guys. We did it again for another week.